KLM might be the underrated airline you didn't think about. But there's one thing that KLM does that no other airline does, and it takes this airline to a whole new level. Stick around to find out. Most reviews I see online are terrible to mediocre at best. And paired with the fact that I just came off a Qatar Airways flight, my expectations going into this flight were in accordance to that. Our experience started at Schiphol, Amsterdam airport, which was interesting to say the least. The airport experience here didn't come close to the one at Doha Hamad. This makes sense, but it is so interesting to see how different airports can be in different parts of the world. I promise this isn't a comparison between Qatar Airways and KLM. But while Qatar Airways has this beautiful separated section for business class, KLM just has this small nook. Luckily, it wasn't a very busy day at the airport today, so smooth check-in, security and immigration later, we were thrown out to the main terminal of the building. I thought the terminal building was average. Not as bad as Lisbon, but nowhere near the likes of the Middle East. Christmas decorations were still up as this flight was taken in the early days of January. As one does, the first order of business was heading to the lounge, which felt like it was miles away. Not sure what's up with airlines deciding that their customers need to do a marathon before getting to the KLM lounge, but once you do reach the KLM lounge, you are invited to take the escalator with the famous KLM Dutch houses, which we will have a conversation about later. This lounge is packed with barely any seating. I eventually did find a seat after 10 minutes of searching around, but the lounge did feel like it was on the brink of being overcrowded. I unfortunately could not capture the spread available at the lounge due to the sheer amount of people, but the offer was quite impressive with hot and cold items on offer. As you dive deeper into the lounge, you can find an area with more comfortable seating and lounge chairs. This lounge did have a second floor to it, which felt like a spot not a lot of people knew about. I also suspect it wasn't too busy since there is a sit-down restaurant, but it does come at an extra charge. Similar to Swiss, KLM does have an outdoor terrace, a great place to plane spot, but unfortunately not open to the public due to weather. Eventually, it was time to board KLM's newest product, the Boeing 787-10. KLM took delivery of the first 787-10 in June of 2019, with this plane being delivered in January of 2020. Talk about timing. This plane took the registration of Papa Hotel Bravo Kilo Golf. I was excited to be on this flight because European airlines tend to be quite middle of the pack when it comes to soft products. Before you get on board, let's talk about this 787-10. This plane is configured in a 3-class layout: economy, premium economy, and business class. We have 38 business class seats, 28 premium economy seats, and 306 economy seats. Walking into the cabin, I was quite impressed with the finishing as well as how the new cabin looked. Although the blue might look like it's too much, I think it works really well with the dark blue contrasting seat. As you take a seat, a welcome drink was offered on my flight, to which I chose water. A look above left me disappointed as there was no individual air vents. Luckily, the cabin was kept cool throughout the flight. Let's take a look around the seat. Right in front of us, we have a generously sized iFi display, and right under comes some storage space. The menu card was placed right beside me with the seat controls placed vertically. This did pose an issue as your hand would naturally rest there. The footrest on this flight was quite roomy and better than others that I've experienced. A small pocket and the literature are on the side. in the literature pocket, you'll find an emissus bag, the safety card, and an in-flight magazine. On the side, you'll find an international socket and headphone jack. There's more storage area in this little wardrobe, which had a water bottle and headphones. You can also find the IFE remote and literature light right beside your seat. Lastly, the armrest on the side is movable depending on whether you'd like to sit or sleep. The bedding provided on this flight was plush, with the comforter being equally as comfortable. Soon enough, we were pushing back from a very cloudy Amsterdam. KLM has always been an interesting airline. They first began operations on 17th of May 1920. Ever since they've entered the modern era, the reviews have always been mediocre. Generally, when I see an airline review, I tend to take them with a grain of salt, because all airlines have good days and bad ones. Anyways, let's enjoy this takeoff from Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. After we got up to cruising altitude, the first order of business was checking out the lavatories. These were clean and kept that way throughout the flight. Right after takeoff, it was time to take a look at the IFE system. We have an 18.5-inch screen, which is good but nothing like Emirates on the new A350. The choices available on the IFE system were adequate. They had a few international options and a good amount of English options to keep you entertained for a couple of flights at least. My favorite part about the IFE system was that there was a tracker letting you know when meal services were going to happen throughout the flight. Dine on demand service is still better, but this is still good to know. You can also add shows to your favorites so you can come back to it later. Additionally, you can find games on your flight to cure some boredom. And lastly, the interactive map on the IFE was incredible. You could move as well as zoom in and out to your heart's content. The meal service started with the apple juice and the choice of cheese or nuts. For starters, I decided to go with the homemade tomato soup, which was comforting to say the least. This was served with a side of green salad and a bread roll. I have to say, this is probably my favorite cutlery I've ever noticed on an airline. Most airlines tend to just put their logos on cutlery, but it looked like they went above and beyond, which is nice to see. For the mains, I decided to go with the taste of delicacies. This included marinated chicken, stir-fried cabbage with curry, and marinated white fish. All of this was finished off with the dark chocolate cake and a KLM house chocolate. Overall, the food was impressive. As mentioned previously, other reviews did slightly worry me about the quality of food on board, but this was a solid meal. These weren't competing with the Middle Easterns, but better than the European airlines I've flown. There were some dishes I liked more than others from the assortment of dishes provided during the mains, but I still think KLM did a good job of providing variety throughout. The dessert wasn't my favorite, but I could still see a world where someone else might find it appealing. Eventually, it was time to take a short nap before the pre-landing service. The bed mode on the flight was great, leaving ample room to move around your legs as well. The bedding provided was substantial, with both blankets being soft and the pillow being plush and supportive. Either way, I'll see you guys after a short nap. So that nap was a lie. I ended up just watching Deadpool on the IFE system with a stroopwafel and apple juice. So let's take this time to take a look at the amenity kit that KLM provides on its long-haul flights. I was quite disappointed with the amenity kit provided. I was initially quite confused as to why the amenity kit looked so weird, but I opened the amenity kit to realize that it was a tote bag that I assume you're supposed to reuse. In the amenity kit was a dental kit, earplugs, face cream, lip balm, a KLM pen, socks, and an eye mask. This was lackluster compared to the leather bags provided on other airlines. The quality also left a lot to be desired. Everything felt cheap and felt like they were cutting corners wherever they could. For the pre-landing snack, I was served a shrimp salad with coconut shavings. This came with a side of chicken curry, rice, and chocolate cake. Coconuts are my worst nightmare, and so this dish just wasn't for me. Not sure whether it was the coconut or just a mixture of flavors, but unfortunately probably one of the worst meals I've had on a plane. As this flight came to a close, the flight attendants came around with the final service and possibly the best part of the flight, the KLM houses. The KLM houses are iconic to the KLM brand, and is probably one of the biggest differentiators compared to other airlines. Each of them contain Dutch gin inside them and are real houses in the Netherlands. If you fly KLM often enough, you can download the KLM Houses app on the App Store to keep track of the houses that you have. The kid in me wanted to book this flight just for the houses. The purser was even nice enough to let me take 2. As we approached Toronto, I wanted to give you my final thoughts on the flight. This was a great flight. Although this isn't the best business class product I've flown, it's a solid product and better than I think people give it credit for. The lounge did feel overly crowded, but as you move deeper into the lounge, it did start to get quieter. The food, while a hit or miss, for the most part, was good, as long as you chose the correct things from the menu. The seat on the 787 is great, but nothing groundbreaking. The seat controls being touch sensitive did annoy me, since that's where you naturally be resting your hand, and there were quite a few accidental touches. The seat in bed mode was great and plenty comfortable throughout the flight. Lastly, the service on this flight was on par with the Middle East carriers, attentive at all times and checking up on me multiple times to make sure I didn't need anything. That's pretty much going to be it for this video. At this point, I know we post once in a blue moon, but if you still choose to watch these videos, thank you so much. We appreciate the support. Please do not forget to subscribe for when I come out of the darkness again, and I will see you in the next one.